We're exploring today what it means to feel alive, and we're going to do it through this book, The Warriors by Glenn Gray. It's about World War II, the experience of soldiers and also civilians during the war. There's one particular conversation that he has with a French woman after the war that is quite enlightening for what we want to explore today. So she tells Glenn Gray, "My life is so utterly boring nowadays. Anything is better than to have nothing at all happen day after day. You know that I do not love war or want it to return, but at least it made me feel alive, as I have not felt alive before or since." Wow, what a statement. Not feeling alive before or since. Basically, only feeling alive when the chaos of the war was going on. Well, it's kind of a problem. Like, we don't want to just feel alive in our lives when we're in that kind of chaos. But challenges can do that for us. Challenges kind of move our attention into the present moment, because we're forced to pay attention to the seriousness of it. And so we're going to investigate that. You know, life can feel like a crushing disappointment. And Gray says that we feel restless and we feel unfulfilled. As young people, as youth, you know, we have these great expectations about what our life is supposed to be, and it just really does not turn out that way. Joseph Campbell, who I've referenced a lot, you know, who wrote this book, he said that what we're seeking is an experience of being alive. Well, this kind of a boring experience that this French woman was sharing is not what he's talking about. It's not what makes someone feel alive. I have students that come to me and they say, you know, when we're taking the clinics, they say, you know, I really love climbing because it makes all of my problems fall away. Well, what's going on here is they're reacting to the seriousness of the situation. So climbing is dangerous. You know, it has the ability to kill you if you make a fatal mistake, or you might be afraid of falling. And so we react with our attention to survive. It forces our attention in the present moment to pay attention to what's going on for our own survival. Someone once said that life is never so sweet as when you are close to lose it. Well, the sweetness comes from that full engagement because our attention is in the present moment. And the losing it, of course, is, you know, it can kill us. The external situation has an impact on our attention. We don't want to take this kind of what I call a victim approach to life and to dangerous situations. Essentially, we're creating an external locus of control, which we can't control, in order to feel alive. It's what I would say is an unconscious way of approaching life and challenge. It's not going to war to feel alive, but the approach is very similar. Do we have a love of war? Like if the majority of us feel like this French woman, could it actually be driving us to create war to feel alive? Well, if it is, it causes kind of a dilemma, and it could cause us to want to blame the warrior for this dilemma. Well, Rick Fields, another author who wrote this book, disagrees. He says that in order to move beyond this dilemma, we need to understand the warrior. And that's what the warrior's way is really all about, is to understand what are the qualities and the values that warriors have that we can utilize for our internal journey and then also the external journey that we take. Now, Glenn Gray says that what needs to happen in order to fall out of love with war is we need to change our hearts. We need to open our hearts. And he said he feels pessimistic about being able to do this. Why? Because he says that we're ill prepared. Now, this is where the warrior comes into play, and the warrior's way. We need a path. We need a way to navigate this inner journey so that we can open our hearts consciously and be able to find out more about our place in this world. I suggest that the solution to this dilemma is the warrior and the warrior's way. Glenn Gray says that what's needed is opening this heart, like I said, and developing connection. Okay, when you open your heart, you develop connection, it creates more intimacy and vulnerability. Instead of going around with this external armor that we tend to have all the time to protect ourselves, this survival protective armor. We develop more self-awareness and self-reflection when we can be intimate with our own selves and other people and expose some of our vulnerabilities. You're not going to be able to see that if you have this armor around yourself. So one particular thing that Gray says that I want to read because I think it's an important point for what we're talking about here. Gray states that in the face of an overpowering universe, you realize, consciously or not, that your freedom and independence are relative and puny. Okay, so when you start doing this reflection, you realize how small you are in this larger universe and how your freedom and independence are relative. It's relative to how you're relating to yourself, and it's relative to how you're connecting and relating to the world around you. We need consciousness for our journey. This is the primary first part, and this is what he says, consciously or not. So that caught my attention. The victim approach won't do. The external locus of control won't do. We need to develop an intentional approach to climbing and our lives. And we do this through developing an internal locus of control. That's what we ultimately can control. That's what the warrior's way does. And that's where feeling alive can really come from, going on that inner journey. So what does intentional living and climbing look like? Let's look at it very simply through gravity. Okay, in climbing, a lot of climbers, they fight against gravity so that they can conquer the rock and succeed. Okay, and you can maybe do the same thing in relationships. You fight against other people. That's not connection that Gray is talking about. In order to develop connection and intimacy and vulnerability and do this inner journey, we need to fight with reality. We need to fight with the situation. In climbing, it's very simple. You fight with the climb and you fight with gravity by relaxing. You're not like fighting against the difficulty of it. You're relaxing so that you allow gravity, working with gravity, fighting with gravity, to pull you down onto your feet so you can stay connected with the rock. If you're fighting with someone else, then an important part of that is listening. Like, stop talking and just listen to the other person so that you can understand and develop connection and understanding. When you start valuing this way of approaching intentional living and climbing, it starts becoming really joyful, really fun. You're getting your excitement from the struggle itself, and meaning comes from that struggle. And you're doing it for its own sake, not for some goal exclusively. Goals are important, but not when you're right in the middle of the stressful event. This journey of becoming conscious is really about noticing. It's about noticing what's going on in your mind, noticing when attention is distracted, noticing if you've even identified what the task is so that you know what to focus your attention on. So noticing is about becoming conscious. It's about waking up. That's when you're not a victim anymore. That's when you start developing a warrior approach to life. If we just look at the rock climb, it reveals a lot of your strengths and weaknesses. And for a lot of people, they don't like to see those weaknesses that are lurking below the surface of your consciousness. But a warrior wants to see that because that's the medium, that's the material, for doing your inner work. Over time, and really this is a lifetime journey, you start feeling like you're more in control of what's going on because you're constantly focusing and redirecting attention toward that internal locus of control. And that brings more peace. So you can be awake, be conscious, notice. These are the foundational elements of mental training. Then you can seek to be alive in peacetime during your traveling your inner journey. So for a practice tip, let's call this developing inner strength through connection. You need a team on your journey. Find a few friends that you can trust, and you're going to need to develop this trust over time. They need to earn it, in other words. Here's the drill. Number one, identify a few friends, and really it might just be one person or maybe two. Number two, schedule time regularly with them. The regularity is important. Like anything in training, and here we're talking about mental training, what's most important is to have an ongoing process that is sustainable. You need regular times to meet with these friends, and in person is best if you can do that. Number three, ask general questions and share kind of general aspects of yourself. Start with that first. And number four, then you can start gradually sharing specific information that's a little bit more vulnerable, with the caveat to share only what you're comfortable sharing so that you can do this in a graduated way. Number five, over time, again, a lifetime really, you develop this inner strength, through this outer team that you have developed and are connected with. That can help you feel connected and feel alive. Enjoy your journey.